In healthcare, there's often too much information and not enough time. Here at the Melanin Initiative, we avoid TMI by breaking things down into language you can understand. We create a safe space for you to ask your questions and share our nursing perspective without taking up too much of your time. Today, we're bringing back for the second time Michael Whiteside. He's a licensed clinical social worker, PhD candidate, entrepreneur, and owner of Reclaiming Royalty, a telehealth practice that sees patients in DC, Maryland, Virginia, and Indiana. He already came on and talked to us about mental health. He really went really deep into what are feelings and addiction, particularly addictive behaviors. So we'll put the link to that in the description box. Today, we're going to hear about his exciting journey to becoming a licensed clinical social worker. If you're new here, welcome to the Melanin Initiative. I'm Dr. Kimberly Madison, a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner and one of your co-hosts here at the Melanin Initiative. We're a health literacy podcast. When we say health literacy, we're talking about your ability to obtain information, to understand that information, and then to use it to manage your health and advocate for others. It's our hope that by watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, shout out to Angie, or by listening on any of your favorite podcast apps, that you'll feel empowered to ask questions, educated on how you can manage your health, and confident to navigate the healthcare system. We have two missions here. The first one is that health literacy that I talked about. The second one is to elevate the expertise of nurses, to bring you awareness to all the career options in the healthcare industry, like Michael's going to do with us today, and to inform our peers of all the different ways that we can leverage our expertise outside of patient care. If you haven't already, this is your chance to subscribe so you can be notified when we release new episodes. We ask that you leave a comment, give us a thumbs up, share, like with all your friends. This will show the algorithm that this information is important so that when people like you look for topics like this, we'll show up higher in the search results. Friendly reminder, this show is for educational purposes only. The opinions expressed here are opinions alone. They are not a representation of any of our affiliations. If you think you might be having a medical emergency, you should seek medical attention and medical guidance from your healthcare provider. If you think you might be having a physical emergency, you should call 911. If you or someone you know might be having a mental health emergency, you can call 988 or text 741-741. We have welcomed Michael Whiteside into the illustrious Melanin Initiative mental health group. We have quite a list. I think out of everyone we've had on and all the specialties, I think mental health is really stacking up. And that means a lot to me because I really think mental health is super important. As I've expressed on a different episode, when we talk about the team that you should have managing your health, like we talk about primary care all the time here, and we know you should have an eye doctor in that group, you should have a dentist in that group, and I strongly believe you should have a mental health provider in that group. We welcome Michael to join the group with Kelsey Wilson, another licensed clinical social worker. She's our in-house trauma therapist. She sees patients in Virginia. She's already come on several times, including most recently to discuss trauma and forgiveness. We'll have the link to our entire mental health playlist in the description box. Kelsey's really special because she also won our 2024 Emerging Leader Award. We do awards once a year, and she was one of the first to get one of those awards. We have Dr. Ani Adabana, doctorally prepared primary mental health nurse practitioner, founder of Capital Multi Health Group. She sees patients in Maryland. She treats primary care and mental health conditions. We have Kirby Williams. She's another psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner out in Richmond, Virginia. She came and talked to us about bipolar disorder as well as vicarious trauma in providers. Together, the two of them are two of the co-founders of the new Society of Primary Mental Health Nurse Practitioners of Color. We'll have their link in the description box too. At the time of this recording, they really are brand spanking new. They don't even have a website, but by the time you're watching this, that probably is available. And then we most recently invited Dr. Takesha Leonard, another psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner who has her doctorate in education. She sees patients in Buffalo. She just opened her practice. She has been kind enough to come and talk to us about pediatric ADHD, as well as share her nursing journey, which started with addiction. Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest is the epitome of compassion, resilience, and empowerment. He's a seasoned mental health professional with a passion for transformation. Michael Whiteside has dedicated his career to helping others see their potential and live out their dreams. As the former intensive outpatient program manager for a local inpatient psychiatric hospital, he led a team that served over 600 patients grappling with suicidal ideations, substance use disorders, and more, expanding the the hospital's reach in transforming lives. But he didn't stop there. He became a clinical liaison, forging over 1,000 connections across the mental health field, driving emergency interventions, increasing access to care, and restoring hope to countless individuals. He's currently working on his PhD in clinical social work. He now serves as the general partner and clinical director of Reclaiming Royalty, where he focuses on empowering the African American clients to reclaim their power, heal from trauma, and thrive as their most authentic selves. He believes every patient, every person has the innate ability to heal and manifest the life they desire, not just settle for the one they've accepted. Please join me in welcoming the transformative, tenacious, and trailblazing Michael Whiteside. Yeah. Welcome back, Michael.
Hey, thank you for having me.
We're so delighted to have you here and really hear about your journey. Like I said, one of our missions is to bring attention and awareness to other options in healthcare. So many times kids are told to be a doctor or a nurse. And, I might be a little biased. I think those are great options. But I know, and that in this industry, we work with so many talented individuals. Seeing patients is it's a honor to do that, right? But when we do our job, we can't really do our entire job and effectively treat the patient without all these other people who are in the industry. And if you don't like people, people say they don't like blood. They don't want to invest time and money and time that it might take to be a clinician. We get that, right? And we need things like tech. We need policymakers. We need people who are social workers, pharmacists. We've had pharmacists on. We'll have some students on. Like the list goes on and on. And so we're so delighted to come on and share your story, because people they're familiar with what a social worker is in terms of the word, but they don't always know what the journey is like, right? And so what we like to do with these stories is give people a point of reference so that it's not just a random Google search anymore. They can put a face to that journey, might be a future mentor, partner. You never know where this can go. And so we're wanting to use your story to inspire the next generation. That next generation isn't just people coming out of high school, because we know people enter this industry as a second, third, and fourth career at all ages and stages of life. And they sometimes doubt, is this a right decision? Yes, it's a right decision. We need that expertise, that perspective that you're bringing from those other industries to help make our system better. And so we know you're going to be able to do that today, not only sharing your journey, but also letting people know how they can connect with you as a client. Now, last time you came on, you played in our new game, 5 questions in 5 minutes. So people will have to go back and hear how you answered those questions. Today, though, we just want to hear where you're joining us from.
So I'm located in Arlington, Virginia, currently at the moment, but I do travel, as you mentioned, whole DMV and Indiana.
Yeah, so like I said, we love to bring awareness and attention, have anyone on our platform across the world, right? But I have a special place in my heart for bringing attention and awareness to people and resources in the DMV, also known as DC, Maryland, Virginia. That is my home. And this show is a love letter to my community. And so we're so delighted to do this. The other part that makes you super special is that you represent Indiana. And when I was a traveling nurse, that was my very first contract location. I loved Indiana. Now, surprise, I didn't expect to see as many people that look like me, but they were like the first people who welcomed me to Indiana. It was the best time. So shout out to them. Really great food, really great to walk around. And the hospital was fabulous.
We love it. We'd love to hear all of that, because almost nobody ever says that.
Yeah.
so
And
thank you.
so yeah, a lot of people haven't been to any people in our community, right? So let's pretend they're coming to visit for the weekend. You tell us where they should eat, a place they have to go, and something they might be surprised to know.
Got you. So in terms of coming to Indy,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very different, right? I live from Indianapolis, but did a lot of my school and a lot of my adulthood in IU Bloomington, so in Bloomington. So if you're coming to Indiana, you're probably coming through the only airport in Indy, right?
Oh,
So in terms of things to do, you have the Pacers games, so the NBA games. You have the Indians games, so minor league baseball. If you enjoy that, if you have kids, the Children's Museum is phenomenal. That's always a great. Depending on what time of year you're coming, they also have the Butter Festival. So that is basically a collective of different artists and intellectuals coming all across the city and pretty much taking over. And it's really cool. There's actually a big, huge, like actual butter statue, like melted butter statue. And so those are always great. Indiana Black Expo is phenomenal if you're there in the summertime. Colts games are always great. There's tons of stuff to do downtown. There's literally the what is it the wine bar where you're doing the pedaling if you like exercise and drinking. That's always fun. So tons. And then in terms of eating, if you're in Indy, anything off Mass Ave is always delicious, which is right downtown. Uh, but I still like some of the more chain-ish type restaurants like Cooper's Hawk. That's always a great one. And then if you're down in Bloomington, if you like any sort of cultural field foods, anything on 4th Street is phenomenal. CM House, um, Taste of India is phenomenal. So always great food. And they have that Midwest comfort.
I love the Midwest. It's always helped me help my life slow down. I've met wonderful people. It's beautiful. The cost of living is a little bit cheaper, and I just find that there's a lot of pride in the Midwest, right? Like in the DMV, yes, we have a lot of money, a lot of resources, a lot of connections, but I find that people tend to be a little bit more clutching of their pearls, if you will, right? They want to hold on to everything. It takes a little bit more to make those connections. And in the Midwest, I've just found that people are just so more hospitable, so much more open. Lots of great places to live in our country, but I think the Midwest doesn't get enough attention.
Absolutely. I agree. And I'm sure there's probably some haters watching.
But yeah, what's the butter connection?
Yeah, so the butter, unfortunately, I never got a chance to go before we moved, but it is a big display of different like artistry, excuse me, and all sorts of local talent. So you have performers, music performers, artists, all sorts of different paintings and such. It is truly just a phenomenal display of both Black culture and just the culture of Indy. They even have a couple of different stores and pop-ups that show up to like from Nap with Love. Because if you're from Indy, it's called Naptown. So from Nap with Love, and all sorts of really cool and very intimate connections to the city. So it's always home.
And I think is it like the city that works or something?
No, not quite. It's what is it? Crossroads of America. That is the Indiana slogan because it's in the Midwest, but everything runs through. So even the state flag actually has basically like a highway.
Oh, okay. But I mean, I guess do they have the best butter or?
I'll be honest with you, I have no idea why they call it butter. Because it's really about art. So, but they have a big butter statue. So maybe butter means something.
Let us know in the comments.
Absolutely. But yeah, they also are big in tech. So one of my fraternity brothers with the Be Nimble Foundation actually does a lot of, I forgot what they called it, but basically a pitch competition where they actually pour into Black entrepreneurs and innovators. So it's really cool.
Are they just focused on indie entrepreneurs?
I think you can really come from anywhere, but I think they really want to pour into the city as part of their initiative. So you have to look into more details on that. But no, they do some really great stuff. They also have like party gras and other sorts of big Black excellent theme celebrations, which literally encompass almost the entire city, which is pretty cool.
Okay, wonderful. That's a great transition to telling us your story. So where would you like to start with your journey?
Yeah, so I'll explain why social work, and that might be an easy place to start. Originally, my goal was not social work. I was slated for psychology and neuroscience. I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. I come from a family that worked in the hospital, so neither of my parents are necessarily doctors, but I grew up really being in the hospital. Like I know some people look at the hospital as like, oh, that's like a place of sickness and ill. Man, it was like a playground because everybody knew me because my parents were there. So just running around the hospital, meeting all their coworkers, but most importantly, seeing how people were getting help. And then also growing up in the church, I identify as Christian. They refer to the church as what? A hospital. So everything in life just suggested you should go work at the hospital. Why not? So really wanted to do that. My mom had connections and helped me get connected to the IU Neuroscience Center. So I actually did a internship where we learned all about sorts of neurological practices as well as neural imaging, MRIs, all the fun stuff. I actually was an MRI scheduler, so really got to see like what does patient care look like, hearing people's concerns earlier on. So really being ingrained. And then as part of our summer internship, we also dissected human brains from cadavers. So I got like thrusted, as you can see, into the deep end. But when I was at Indiana University in Bloomington, I loved everything about it, thoroughly enjoyed it. I did not care for my chemistry labs though, and just kind of the culture. Uh, just with some of the students, didn't really vibe. I was more person centered because I always wanted to help people, not necessarily the medical or the medicine. So it got me questioning, like, is this really what I want? I'm not really feeling this. And then again, prayed about it, talked to a couple of people, found out about social work. And then I was like, okay. But similar to probably a lot of people on this call, I was like, I don't really want to do case management, don't really want to be involved with DCS. DCS, great work to them. Just not necessarily my personal passion. So found out that you can actually become a licensed clinical social worker, so a mental health therapist. And I was like, huh, that sounds like more of what I want to do. But again, now you have, right? Because I was still trying to be pre-med, because at that time I was like, well, maybe I'll learn social work and, still do the neurosurgeon. But after that chem lab, I think I was good. So then you have a psychologist, so somebody who has their PhD or PsyD in psychology. Then you have a psychotherapist, meaning you have your master's in either social work, counseling, or some sort of mental health. So it could also be psychology. And then you also have the psychiatrist, which again, didn't want to go to med school. By that point, I think I was cool. So I was like, okay, well, now it's just between, do I want to be a psychologist or a psychotherapist? When I did my due diligence, kudos to those who become a clinical psychologist, but that's a lot of school, like a lot of school. And I thought about it and I was like, I don't want to take additional tests. I don't want to have to get an additional license. So I'm going to do a lot of research. And then what really sold me was, if you get your bachelor's in social work, the master is only 1 year. So I was able to graduate in 1 year. And then the internship that I was working at, which was the local psych hospital for that clinical practicum, man, I loved it. I learned so much about client health, getting to really implement, run some groups. Again, I'm a super people person, if you can't tell. So for me, it was just like, oh man, this is home. And then because I did my internship there, I was familiar with the system, familiar, again, hospital, right? Everything is just clicking. Like, why not? There was only one issue, and you'll get a kick out of this, which this never happens. I was like, this must have been God. This never happens. When I was applying, because we graduated in the summer because our master's was 1 year, they didn't have any openings for therapists. Can you believe that? Like, a hospital has no opening for therapists. Like, that never happens. So I ended up getting recruited by the marketing director at the time, who is still to this day a phenomenal mentor. And he said, you have a really strong people skill. Why don't you consider coming over to the marketing department? And I've done tabling and a little bit of marketing before that, but that was not my interest at all. And even the way that we found that he approached me, which is a truly funny story, right? If we have time, maybe I'll tell it. Do tell it.
No, go ahead.
So I had started off my internship a little bit delayed just due to administrative paperwork stuff with the hospital. So I was behind a couple of hours. So to make up those hours, I would work later at the hospital, and the hospital was 24/7. So it worked out. So I actually, at that point, would see my clients, do all my internship stuff. And then I started bringing gym stuff because I worked a lot with the teens and adults, and they had a basketball gym. So the teams would, to kind of build that rapport, we have some competitive back and forth talking stuff. So I'd be like, okay, wait till I take these dress shoes off. I got you. And so I actually would go and play basketball with the teens who were in an inpatient facility, meaning they can't go home, so they couldn't go see their parents or their families. And I actually would spend that time shooting the ball, breaking ankles and busting heads. Sometimes you got to humble them. And as I was going back from playing at the gym, the company was having their holiday party where they had a barbecue and different things outside. And so the marketing director went and was like, telling everybody, come get some food. Obviously, intern, I done worked 12 hours, tired. So went, got some food, had met the brand new CEO at the time, had no idea, right, that he was not the most social. And I was able to get him to talk, get him to open up, found out about his fraternity. I'm in a fraternity. We exchanged greetings, had a good time, and then got my food from the barbecue, and then went back to the office to change, freshen up and on home. But the marketing director comes, knocks on the door, and says, "Hey, how did you do that?" I'm like, "Do what?" Like, I'm just an intern. I'm just trying to go home. Like, what do you mean? How'd you get the CEO to open up like that? He is horribly introverted, doesn't talk to anybody, and you just had him talk for at least like 30 minutes straight. I didn't know that. I just walked up and I was hungry, right? Not not really in there. He said you should do marketing. And so it was really nice because you got a phone, company phone, you also got a company car. So every week I could have a different enterprise car. So it was pretty cool. Right. At that young age, it was like, oh. So that's how I got into the clinical liaisonship. So driving all over the state, making those connections, really seeing essentially the whole process of what does it mean to have holistic healthcare. And so I saw from insurance and utilization review all the way to getting the referral, tracking the referral, helping with intake, and then of course maintaining that those clinical interventions. So got to do that. And then during the pandemic, we were at a crossroads, like many places, where they told us, like, potentially you could lose your job because people are shutting down, patients aren't coming in. Like, what do we do? And my boss at the time, the marketing director, had a phenomenal idea. And he said, well, you're clinical. And I was like, I guess you're right. I mean, you don't think about the dual role that you're playing. Well, what if we move you over back into the hospital? You take over this intensive outpatient, like you help with that. That way we can kind of maintain personnel, because they told us that, they had to lay people off. Marketing probably would be the first to go. So went over, did that, used those people skills because I had been on the unit. So I knew the kids, played basketball with them, just kind of was already there. Built that up. They're like, hey, you're really good at this. Would you want to do it full time? Felt like we're in the pandemic. It's helping the whole hospital, helping us. Why not? Did that, had a great time. And then ended up building that program up to eventually hire more therapists. I got promoted in 6 months to be an outpatient manager. And then the program grew from like 5 people to 77 at the height. So when we say we did 600 visits, it was 600 visits in just 1 month. And so now you're in the hospital. Yeah, on the team was like 3 or 4. So yeah. So got some great kudos, had a great time. But again, if you track my story, it's just about making impact. In every phase, that's the goal. How can I make impact? So the LCSW allows me to do a lot of the same stuff as the psychologist, with the exception of assessing for ADHD. Again, not my personal passion, but I can help people. And that's how we got to the LCSW. All the external things that influenced that decision, was able to make a financially, lucrative career at the time. So it just made sense.
Wow, that's really impressive. In your previous episode, you talk about how men are not given the opportunity to express their feelings all the time, right? Like the society. Do you feel like you fell into that, or you felt like you're kind of an outlier? Because it sounds like from the very beginning, you always kept describing yourself as a people person and someone who was talking, and you were drawn to these professions and these roles where you're talking and having these open communications.
Yeah. So no, I'd say I probably was a billboard, very stereotypical. Like
Hmm.
the truth is, before going into social work, if you did like my True Colors test, if you are you familiar with that?
Mm-mm.
So basically, the personality test, I was more aligned with being like a gold, which is more the rule follower, very structured.
Hmm.
Maybe the orange, a little spontaneous from time. But I
Hmm.
was those two, but I wasn't really feelings, wasn't really into that. Like I was kind of funny, kind of stereotypical guy, right? Kind of stoic, emotionally reserved, but I always wanted to look to have fun. Humor was the outlet. So then, when I learned some of these clinical theories, especially on the master's level, I started realizing and having that internal dialogue with myself of like, wait a minute, what if half my life has not really been what I think it is? What if the reason that some of these things that have happened, or the moments of sadness, or the relationship failures, have really just been connected to misunderstandings and misperceptions of what I feel like I have to be?
Hmm.
So that first permission I had to give and learn personally. And I saw what it did for patients when other men got that permission. So then I started exploring with myself, like, what would that look like just to give myself that permission? Like, feel what you feel, bro. And like, let's walk that out. Let's just practice that. And so going through grad school, getting that validation, because obviously the papers and stuff are asking, well, how did this client make you feel? And
Hmm.
it just was perfect timing.
Hmm.
So that's more so how I got to that understanding that it's a permission issue. It's not that you don't feel it. You don't know if you have the chance to express it.
Who can give permission?
That's a good question. So that's twofold. Because in some aspects, you have to give it. The first person you need to give permission is yourself. But that's also probably the hardest person to give. Because as you're considering what to express, how many times, even right with yourself, do we naturally think about how everybody else is going to respond? So sometimes you almost need, if you can't give it to yourself, you may need a mentor or somebody that you trust, or even just, if you have a parent, that's great. If you have a friend, that's great. But somebody who can give you that validation that your feelings are worth it. And then
Hmm.
and to internalize that, right? See, even that face that you just made, right? Like that yummy digesting, that mental, right, digest that I just watched happen. That is actually what we have to give ourselves. And in therapy, that's really what it's about. What is it like to be you? And today I want you to just explore that, even if it changes tomorrow.
Yes, you're very good. You've mentioned mentor twice, and we tell people all the time, especially our students, right? You need to have a mentor. You need, even practicing clinicians, we have to, stress to them, even though you're practicing, you still need a mentor, and you can have mentors in different industries, and you should have more than one. So, what are three things people should do if they're looking to get a mentor?
Identify what available resources are already present. You may have mentors and not realize it. Like I always thought this mentor had to be this very formal. I even one time asked a fraternity brother to mentor me. And then I took a step back and realized I have professional mentors all around. And there are people who may be in a dual role, right? Like a parent could be a mentor if they're aligned. Emphasis on if they're aligned. But you can also have a supervisor who's, again, a natural mentor. So it really just depends. So identify available resources. What relationships are pushing you in the direction that you want to go naturally? And then what is this person's emotional and maybe physical availability to mentor you?
Emotional availability. I expect that a therapist would bring that part up. And would you like to give a shout out to your fraternity? You've mentioned them quite a few times.
Absolutely. Alpha Phi Alpha, Fraternity Incorporated. Shout out to the bros, '06.
And when did you cross?
So I crossed fall 2014. So I'm a little
Oh,
older, a little
oh
seasoned now.
wow, you're really in there, yeah. And you mentioned you had the opportunity to really understand holistic care. Can you just explain what that means?
Yeah. So looking at the entire process. So looking at the entire process, but also looking at the entire person. So one of the beauties about social work is social work sees the person in their environment and assesses the environment and looks at that as a coexisting, mutually dependent system. Psychology, from the way that it's been explained to me, so I apologize to anybody who views differently. The way it was introduced to me when I was making my decision, psychology uses a medical model and really focuses on how are the conditions viewed as a sickness or an illness, and what is that, and how is that impacting the person from a medical model. Hard part is that doesn't always see the relationships and how those relationships impact, because again, the relationships could actually be the core neuroses or the illness itself. Counseling looks at a set of practices.
Yeah, I would love for our medical colleagues to chime in, because in nursing, or at least in my experience, that's how it was also separated to us, right? In nursing, we practice a holistic care model. From my observation, it's only a newer thing for physicians to be adopting. And so I was told also that traditionally they are more focused on the disease first, the patient second. And that in nursing we focus on the patient first and then the disease second. So you guys can give us some feedback. I'm just telling you how they explained it to me. So yeah, that was interesting. So you mentioned you didn't want to do that other route because it was too much school, but here you are working on your doctorate.
Yes. And my mom makes fun of me about that all the time, because she's like, you could be a resident right now, or you could be whatever. But this is why, this is the difference. One, I always knew I wanted to get a doctorate, but I didn't know which one. So in our field, you have your PhD, you have your PsyD, you also have a DSW, doctorate of social work. And you also have an EDD, right? Doctorate of Education, which can allow you to do the clinical work as well. And then you can also get a doctorate in counseling and all sorts of just right everywhere. For me, I wouldn't say that I'm primarily a research focused individual. I do enjoy research and I can, but that's not necessarily my first primary way that I would want to support, let's say, my community. I'm very interested in, let's do clinical interventions, let's create new strategies, because those things are going to be easier to digest. And also, you think about the difference in social economic status. Is everybody going to have access, right, to my research article? Yes, it may only be $10, but where do you have to go to find it? And then having the right intellectual capacity to break it down, because of course, if it's published, we just keep going further and further away. And so that social distance is like this. But an intervention, I can bring it right here to you. We can modify it. We're good. So that's how I got to that decision. And then I found out that the institute that I chose, Institute for Clinical Social Work in Chicago, Illinois, they offer a PhD in clinical social work, but it's practice based. So now, right, I can get access to research. So I am doing a dissertation, so I will be doing research, but everything is focused on my current caseload and has been. So all the class assignments have been written and focused on what am I doing in the therapy room. So you get almost like a hybrid. And I don't have to do another internship or postdoc. That was also a deterrent, because hey, life is expensive, and if you're married or in any relationship, dates cost money, and I'll leave it right there. So I knew I wanted to make money, wanted to still get the doctorate, but didn't want life to change. And then if you ever meet my wife or you bring her on here, she loves to travel. She's the pageant queen.
Expensive. She's expensive.
I'm not saying that.
I said it. I said it.
You can't put that on the recording. But no, it's just she likes to travel and she likes to go places. So I did an online PhD because I knew we might be relocating. And I'll jokingly, I told her, I said, I just don't trust you. I know we're going to pack up and move. We're going to be shaking and moving. And as you can see, we are. So an online PhD made sense. It's affordable and allows me to really focus everything I'm doing, almost like a synergy.
I love that. Real quick, let's give a shout out to your wife. We've mentioned her a million times already.
Yeah. Shout out to Kendra Whiteside, wherever she is. I think she's at the gym, right? Getting more and more of those Michelle Obama arms. Kudos to her.
And she represents the state of Virginia quite well, right?
Yes, she's also Mrs. Virginia 2024.
And really nice to meet her. Really lovely.
Absolutely. And she's currently from Mrs. America. She won Mrs. Fitness. So shout out to her.
So of course she would be at the gym.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's welcome on the show anytime to talk about any of the initiatives that she's pushing forward, as well as her role in reclaiming royalty.
Hi, I'm Alicia from the Melanin Initiative podcast. Our mission is twofold. One, to simplify complex health information so you feel empowered to ask questions, educated on how to manage your health, and confident to navigate the healthcare system. And two, to elevate the expertise of nurses, spotlight the diverse career opportunities within the healthcare industry, and inform our peers how to leverage their expertise as clinicians and entrepreneurs. In less than 2 years, we've grown to over 50,000 views and 1,000 downloads, with an international audience spanning the US, Canada, the UK, Australia, and more. Our engaged listeners are professionals, entrepreneurs aged 25 to 44 who value authentic, impactful content. Want to connect with this dynamic audience? Advertise with us. Send in your 1-minute video ad and let's amplify your brand. Email tmi.melanin@gmail.com for rates and details. Let's work together.
Absolutely.
You said something and I was going to add on to that. Well, tell us about your doctoral research.
Yeah. So my dissertation is really looking at code switching. So for those who may not know, I'm defining that as a temporary switching of cultures. So looking at the dynamic between Black professionals in predominantly white spaces. So what that really means is you're temporarily switching off Black cultural aspects. So demeanor, diction, tone, language, body language, even swag, if you will, and replacing it. Which it sounds funny, but the research does actually use
I
these
believe
terms for a more traditionally white appearance in order to maintain psychological safety. So what does it look like for us to show up authentically as ourselves, and what are all the different mechanisms we have to jump through in order to feel safe in these white spaces as Black professionals?
Wow, psychological safety. I'm really into words, as you may have noticed. I'm pretty into them. Wow, that's a good one. Psychological safety. That's a good book too, or the name of a practice even.
Yeah,
Doesn't that sound nice?
that does sound nice.
Yeah, I like that. You mentioned your online program, and I just want to say a quick thing because I was recently talking to one of my mentees. He just graduated nursing school, and she already knows she wants to be an NP, and so she was debating on relocating to have an in-person program because she didn't want to do an online program. And it made me realize there's this misconception about online health professional programs, that they think the whole thing is online. And I was like, no, the only thing that's online is the lecture. You still work with real people. So I just want to, address that misconception for anyone out there who doesn't know. The only thing online is the lecture. Everything else is really with real people, whether your school helps you find them or not, or like you get access to your own patients. That's the only difference. And so to me, honestly, I've done both programs, online and in person.
Mhm.
And you have your lecture with your professor for, 50 minutes, sometimes an hour and a half. You still go home and repeat you still go rewatch the lecture, go listen to the audio, which is online. So if you feel like you need to sit in a room and sit next to people who are typing or falling asleep or chatting while the professor is lecturing, go ahead and do that if that works for you and it helps you stay more disciplined, because you do have to have quite a level of discipline if you're in an online when you're on an online program. I just want to address that misconception because I didn't realize that's why people were putting down the online program, because they thought the whole thing was online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our program was so we met on Zoom every Tuesday and Thursday on Zoom for 2 hours because again, you're only meeting twice a week, and we would discuss all sorts of different clinical material from both workloads, theories, etc. We also had our online discussion boards, and then twice a semester we actually will go to Chicago to meet in person to both connect with other students, but also to meet the professors in person. And then we always had our term papers or semester final papers.
Wonderful. And how long is the PhD program for you?
So it is 3 years of coursework. And then after that, it's up to you about how quickly you want to get your dissertation done.
And where are you at in that?
So I'm finishing up my lit review. So hopefully I will be proposing here soon, which I know will make my wife happy because she's like, "Come on, Jack, let's go."
Yes, our families are in that program with us.
Mhm.
And so let's see. So then at what point in this journey did you decide to open your own practice?
So that is a funny story. I knew I always wanted my own, whether it was a practice when I was really ambitious, my own hospitals or hospital system. Um, and so the private practice came to be because I saw the need. Like a lot of people that look like us, especially people of color, are not necessarily getting the service because they don't see people that look like us. That's one of the huge barriers. So if I created a practice where primarily I'm able to focus on that and I can see who I want to see while still let's keep it 100 uh, more lucrative. I've worked for tons of other companies and people may help bring in a lot of money for them, but then I get a little bit of money for myself.
Mhm.
So private practice made sense. And then when my wife was going through the pageant, the first time, it also allowed me a financial structure to support her. So
Hmm.
now we can incorporate certain aspects she's doing, hire her as an employee, as the co-owner, and now we can actually write off some of her pageant expenses.
And where did you develop this business acumen?
Believe it or not, working in marketing,
I thought
because
I thought you might bring that up. Yeah.
yeah, like seeing it from a private, because they're a psych hospital, so they're not nonprofit like all the other hospitals. They're in
Hmm.
the private sector, so you literally learn all the different ins and outs of what does it look like, how do you write something off, how do you track market trends, and where can you essentially do research to get the best financial opportunities. They were nice enough at one point. One of the CEOs was interested in and told me if I'm interested in the CEO program at the time, I definitely could do that. So that was also one of the considerations at the time.
Mm. And I think I don't know what's the percentage of licensed clinical social workers that go on to open their own practice. Do you know? Is that pretty high?
I would say it's pretty high. Many people, because we were told even in school, right? Private practice is like the gold standard because you make your own time, you work for yourself. So if you are willing to take on the blessing with burdens, as I call it, to manage everything, it's extremely flexible and very sustainable.
Mm. And given that, do you guys get any business courses in your schooling?
No, that's actually something that I am pushing. So in my conversations with the IU School of Social Work, I'm actually pushing them to let's talk about how to develop a entrepreneurial track because many of the alumni, we all have private practices, but nobody teaches us how to have it. You literally learn working for somebody else, learning the ins and outs. But what if you could circumvent that process and actually make the impact you want to make, which allows you then financially to give back to the school, higher
Oh,
investments, greater tuition rate. Yeah, so as you can see, some of my my marketing and persuasion, right?
very smart selection of words. Yeah, this I think all my nursing friends, especially all my entrepreneur nursing friends, can totally relate to what you're saying because this is the dialogue we're having every day about the fact that so many of us are going into business. Yet, and even if you're not going into business, you are working for a business owner, right? People don't think about that. Right. And that person has a business mindset. They're trying to figure out can I operate more lean, get more return on my investment, get higher productivity, right? And as the clinician, you're not thinking like that. You're just focused on the patient. And so that lack of that little gap in how the two of you are communicating and what the two of you are aiming for, it gets wider and wider every day. And so yeah, we're out here pushing too for more business courses and to help clinicians develop more of that business acumen, and particularly in nursing curriculum. But I think it all parallels, right? Even our physician colleagues can probably attest to the same thing because they also don't get that information.
Exactly.
And so, what's the story behind the name Reclaiming Royalty?
So it's two part. So the more secular viewpoint is when you think about reclaiming, it's literally realizing that you already have it. It's more so reorganizing and repositioning things that don't work for you to then work for you. You're reclaiming. And then when you think about royalty, royalty is being of a high standard. If you think about a king, queen, or any person, they are royal regardless of their status. They're royal because of their bloodline. So what would it look like to tell somebody, hey, you are of the highest quality regardless of where you are in life? You just sometimes have to go back and remind yourself so you reclaim royalty.
What's been your biggest challenge in setting up your own practice?
Believe it or not, sometimes getting patience. I would say that, and then credentialing with different insurances, negotiating pay, just because each insurance has their own process for credentialing, which I'm sure you're very well aware. And then even though you build this great system, even though you can do great things, sometimes it is hard then to communicate that out to people where they can, easily find you. Luckily, I've been able to use different platforms, and just my track record, I've been very blessed that every time I've left a practice, a good chunk or the majority of the patients that I see want to follow me. So now I have cushion, and then I just build from there.
And are you out in the community and social media?
Social media, yes. Out in this community, I am getting more and more out there. Again, not being from the DMV, I learned that, hey, man, you guys are very niched. I didn't realize that in Indiana, right? Like, you got one or two things, so it's easy. And of course, I grew up there. So now being here, a year later, I am getting more acclimated to, okay, I need to go here. Okay, here's this group. And then I try to use some Indiana connections to also, like, what organizations do they have chapters out here? And also trying to write a dissertation. You just needed time. Then my wife was doing the pageant. I was her pageant coach. So it also was just a timing thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to, the student thing will be over soon, and then it will, things will open up. But hopefully your presence, and now that you're part of our illustrious mental health group, they'll, you have a new connection now that will help. One of the things that our primary care friends do a lot is they go to the barbershops, and they've been focusing on things like high blood pressure, diabetes, and mental health. And I just love that model, that relationship with the community, because you have, especially as doctoral students who are looking to get data somewhere and get a population they can sample, you have someone who's already in the community. They have an established setting. They have an established rapport with the community. They might have gone into it wanting to make money or wanting to make people look aesthetically pleasing, but over the course of time, they become their therapist. They develop a curiosity on their health concerns. So they appreciate these relationships with clinicians so that they can bring this information, education to their clients, and it becomes a great referral process, right?
Yep.
Oh, I noticed you are at risk for X, Y, and Z. I know so-and-so. I'm going to refer you to them. Oh, you just moved into town. Hey, you looking for a barber or a stylist?
Yep.
I'm going to refer you over there too. And it's just a great way to provide that holistic care that we talked about earlier.
Oh yeah. It's definitely helpful. And our practice so far has already had over 100 patients. So that's also really nice. But now it's also, how can we be more direct and have that direct, like you said, community relationship?
Yeah, and so 100 patients, congratulations. And earlier you noted that you were expanding the team. Do you want to tell us who is on your team?
Yeah. So my wife is the other general partner, but she's also a life coach. So she is taking more clients who want to have a more solution-oriented approach. So not quite therapy, because therapy is big on processing. And then with my background in psychoanalytic work, I'm looking at the unconscious. So why we do what we do, and how does what we do impact the way we see ourselves and connect back to childhood. So I'm heavy on processing, versus a life coach is going to be more solution oriented, dealing more with the present. Not everybody wants to process. Not everybody wants to talk about the past. So her solution oriented approach really allows people to take more control today. And then we added 3 more therapists. So we'll have a licensed social worker. So I will provide supervision. We'll have a licensed clinical addictions counselor, and then another LCSW. Now, they are all in Indiana, so they're going to be focusing mainly on my Indiana folks, while I'm focusing on the DMV. And then we are adding 3 more life coaches. And they can see, the best part about life coaching is, because it is private pay and because it's not necessarily regulated the same way that social work and other professions are, they can see anybody across the country or anywhere in the world.
That's wonderful. Do you have clients in other parts of the world?
Not yet. I did have somebody reach out from Ghana
Mm.
one time about wanting to do therapy, but we weren't able to follow up when I reached back out. So, but yes, anything is possible, and we're very flexible too.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we're putting it out there. Actually, one of the people in our mental health group, Dr. Ani Adabang, she's part of, at least I think she is, she's part of the Ghanaian Diaspora Nursing Alliance, who has collaborated with DMPs of color, and they're actually going to Ghana next month. And then the guy who's going to be on our show tomorrow, Andrews, another doctoral candidate, he started a foundation in Ghana. He's from there. He flies there like all the time, even though he's married with children in a doctoral program and running this foundation. But one of the things he does there is he teaches, and it seems so simple to us because we're in a developed country, right? CPR, how to stop the bleed, and patient safety. I haven't heard him mention anything about mental health. So, there's an opportunity there.
Absolutely. My wife has been to Ghana, Botswana, and she loves that. And I'm definitely down as well. One of my best friends has, ironically, he's Ghanaian, similar setup, has a nonprofit, Educom, has his own private practice. He's out in Maryland, Limelight Recovery, and he also goes back and forth, really helping kids from a social work standpoint get the resources for school and making sure that they can. And he's actually putting kids through college. So yeah, so you're right.
How's he doing that?
So when they go to the university, he personally has used his personal funds as well as grants and other things to help whoever they award that type of scholarship to, and he will help fund them from high school, and he'll personally fund them to college.
Wow. So I'm looking for a connection to increase dermatology nursing education for the nurses in Ghana. So I'm just putting that out there for anyone who's listening, and to my special guest who's sitting here.
Absolutely. I will definitely connect you.
Yeah.
He has all sorts of connections out there.
Oh, wonderful. So where would you like to see Reclaiming Royalty go in the next 12 months?
That's a great question. New year too, right? So everybody's insurance is renewing. I'm kidding. But no, I would love to be more direct, impactful. I love doing workshops and other non-traditional therapy approaches.
Oh,
So
okay.
workshops and trainings, if you think about stages of change, everybody is not right for preparation, action, and maintenance. You have a lot more in actually contemplation and pre-contemplation. So for those who are listening and may not be familiar with these terms, these are stages where people may not realize that they need to work on their mental health or that they want to, but they're open maybe to exploring. So a workshop is a great educational way. There's not really a whole lot that you have to do. It's a great way to explore. So more workshops, more trainings, get that subscription model, just making healthcare, especially mental health access and as a resource, more affordable, more accessible, and then really just hitting the DMV hard and hitting Indiana hard to essentially fill up my clinicians and my life coaches to the point where they tell me, Mike, you got to start marketing, dude. Like,
One of our friends, I don't know, one of our friends who was on the show, Anthony Young, he is a newly minted NP, and I think he's looking to start his DNP program too. But anyway, we had him on talking about the Black Nurse Association's first men's health conference. That was in New York. It was a one-day conference. But these workshops that you're speaking of, that seems like a great collaboration. And I don't know that we've had anyone from that organization in the DMV, but they have over like 300,000 members. So there's got to be some people in DMV where maybe that could be happening. Because I mean, that was just the first men's conference and it was in New York. So maybe we can push them to make the next one in the DMV area. I mean, there's 3 options, right? And so I'm just putting that out there. Happy to make connections.
Absolutely. And there's a Black Wellness Conference that happens in Silver Spring, Maryland. There's also another one that happens, I think, in Richmond, in North Carolina. And I know he goes by the Black Therapist on social media. He's really popular. First name is Aaron. He actually has a men's health conference or a Black mental health conference in New York. I think he's on his 5th year.
Are you going to be at any of those doing one of your workshops?
I I'm doing my best to get out. But if I don't send me, then I'll have one of my staff send a proposal. But I love doing those stuff, and I'll do that. We'll do in person stuff. I thought about connecting with some of the maybe hotels or just easily accessible places to actually do some of the fun workshops that actually speak to more kinetic learning styles. Which, if you think about people of color, we're probably most likely highly kinetic, meaning we don't necessarily get our primary learning style met. So can we take some of these taboo topics in a more friendly environment?
Well, we look forward to seeing your journey and seeing where you go from here. Certainly, as a husband, entrepreneur, and a student, we will keep you in our prayers. We know that you're taking that. What do you do for self-care?
I love watching Netflix, going on walks, sleeping, and definitely hydrating.
Okay, wonderful. And then three takeaways from our show today for anyone who's thinking about taking this path.
The path is open, it's flexible. There's no right or wrong way. It's just more so finding the way that works for you. Have fun in the process. Don't limit yourself.
Wonderful. And how can people connect with you?
Yes, you can go to the website, reclaimingroyalty.net. All of our contact information is there. You can call, email, or text. I answer everything, and it all comes to one phone. So that's always nice. And I'll do everything I can to support you or connect with you.
Well, it's been a delight to chat with you this morning, and I'm so excited to share your journey with the public. Hopefully, bring awareness to people who want to access your services. And congratulations to getting that much access too. That takes a lot of work. And shout out to your wife who has supported you, both of you. I mean, you told stories of how you both supported each other through your own journeys, and how now you're working together in a common goal. That's a whole episode by itself, really.
Absolutely.
You're welcome back anytime, especially if you add any new services, if you have any new initiatives. When you finish your research, we'd love to hear what you found. You mentioned before your specialty areas. So if you ever want to come back and dedicate a whole show to those topics so you can demonstrate your expertise and people can get a feel of what it's like to be your client, you're more than welcome to do that as well.
Thank you so much. And I definitely look forward to joining again and bringing some of my new staff too.
Oh, yes. We would love to do that. You can email us your questions, everyone, to tmi.melanin@gmail.com. If you haven't already, there's still time to subscribe, leave a comment or two, like, share, hit the notification bell. When you interact with the platform, it lets the algorithm know that this information is important so that when people like you look for topics like this, will show up higher in the search results. All the resources that we've mentioned, how to connect with us, how to connect with Michael, will be in the description box. At the time of this recording, we release new videos weekly on Sundays at noon Eastern on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and we drop the audio at 5 a.m. on all your favorite podcast apps. So our night shifters can be the first to get something and not the last. And maybe someone will play it during, I used to be a night shifter, as you probably have picked up on.
Same.
Oh, really? That could be a whole nother episode also. Oh, yeah, because you mentioned the 24 hours. And that's actually when you are a student and you have multiple things going on, family, school, business, you do need to know that those things exist so that you can meet whatever requirements you're trying to meet, whether it's trying to take care of your life or meet your clinical requirements. And the hospital can serve as a really great avenue for that. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.